Welcome back to the Indian Hollywood Fan YouTube channel. And this is the breakdown of the first two episodes of the Disney Plus Hawkeye series. So, before getting started, if you're new to the channel, subscribe the channel, like and share the videos. And stay tuned for the future Hawkeye episode breakdowns and reviews, as well as reviews for movies like Eternals and No Time to Die. And this is an official spoiler warning. So if you've not seen the first two episodes of Hawkeye yet, then watch the episodes first and then continue watching this breakdown. So let's get started with the breakdown. Episode 1 begins with a flashback scene from the first Avengers movie. But we see this from the point of view of a young Kate Bishop as during the Battle of New York, some of the alien soldiers of the Chittori army are just about to kill Kate, but then Hawkeye shoots an arrow and then he saves her life. But sadly, Kate's dad dies during the attack. And then we get to the present day, and Kate Bishop is all grown up. She's 22 years old, and then she attempts to, test her archery skills on a clock tower, and then it just gets destroyed. And We cut to the Rogers the musical, which is like a musical enactment of the events of the Battle of New York, and then Hawkeye and his three children, Clint Barton and his three kids are watching the musical, and then when Black Widow comes, the actress who's playing Black Widow comes on screen, and then basically Clint Barton gets emotional because he remembers how Natasha sacrificed herself in Avengers Endgame. Uh, and One thing which is true in the comics but has never been, which has never come up in the movies, is that Clint Barton becomes deaf, as time goes along. So that is something which they introduced in this series, that he's using a hearing aid, and he's also going through the PTSD of the events of the Avengers Endgame movie. Uh, but Basically, he just wants to spend time with his kids. He just wants to spend the Christmas with them. While Kate Bishop has her own issues with her mother and then her mother's to be fiance, and they go to a party, and then basically Kate Bishop manages to get into an underground auction, and then that's the auction about stolen artifacts from the Avengers compound. So basically, the Ronin's sword and Ronin's suit comes up, and then basically the tracksuit mafia attacks the auction, and then Kate Bishop, she gets the Ronin suit, and then she wears it, and then she starts fighting or the tracksuit mafia. And then Ronin's re-emergence is showed on the news. So basically, Barton goes and tracks where, who's this person who's wearing his Ronin suit, because he remembers the time when he was Ronin. And That's when our two main characters, Kate Bishop and Clint Barton, meet each other. In the second episode, Kate and Clint they get back to Kate's apartment, and basically the tracksuit mafia knows that Kate Bishop is the one who was wearing the Ronin costume. So they set her apartment on fire. So basically, they just have to run away, and then the Ronin suit is still in the apartment. So Clint takes Kate to her aunt's safe house. Uh, while he goes back to investigate where the uniform, where the Ronin suit is, but then he understands that it's been taken by one of the firefighters, and basically he tracks them down to the fact that that firefighter is playing into a role play game of some kind. While Kate finds some little clues about the fact that the guy who was speaking to her in that party, Armand, was killed, and she suspects that he was killed by Jack, uh, who is played by Tony Dalton. And Clint recovers the Ronin suit, while Kate Bishop challenges Jack to a sword fight, and then she understands that he's pretty good with swords. While ultimately the second episode ends with the tracksuit mafia. They track both. They first track Clint down, but then Kate understands about his location, and then she comes to save him. But ultimately, both of them get captured, and then it is revealed that Echo is probably the leader of the tracksuit mafia. So let's talk about the review of these two episodes now. Basically, it's a pretty grounded and humble show. It has a light-hearted theme, like a Christmas story, and it introduces us to a very new, interesting story about Hawkeye. Something, Hawkeye has always been a supporting character, one of the Avengers, so he gets the center stage. To be very honest, while I was watching these two episodes, I just had a feeling that maybe Kate Bishop is the main character. I think Haley Stanfield literally steals the show. She is charismatic, she is energetic, she is funny, and clearly Barton and Bishop make one of the best MCU duos. Vera Farmiga from the Conjuring movies, she plays Kate's mother, while Tony Dalton from Better Call Saul, if you remember him, he plays the what I think is the main villain, but basically he's adapted from the comics. So there's a character named Swordman from the comics who is a Black Widow villain. He's a Hawkeye villain. He's also been an Avengers villain. So I think he's going to be the ultimate villain of the show. But we have Echo in the show as well, who's running the tracksuit mafia. So I don't know what's going on. So Echo is actually a deaf Marvel character who has ties to Daredevil, and she's also an adoptive daughter of Kingpin. So as far as these two episodes go, I think the show feels very joyful in a way that Haley Stanfield's humor and one-liners, along with some certain in certain scenes, even Jeremy Renner is cracking some jokes. So I think has all the MCU elements to it. At the same time, it feels like a street level show. Like it's not really about some world ending event. It's not about anything big. So that's why I said that it's a very grounded show. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe the channel, and stay tuned for the third episode review and breakdown.